morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 13th day of May 2024. Welcome to our show today. So today's going to have a little bit of play in it. We've got Jeff Buongiorno up, a beast level election integrity investigator or election fraud investigator. I'm going to call it fraud because there's fraud going on right now, as well as a cybersecurity guy. Then after Jeff, we're going to have Reagan Box on. Again, she is the Senate candidate for Georgia. And hopefully we'll be able to get on Stephanie Lambert and Stephanie Scott. I want everybody to know what's happening in the state of Michigan is the crime syndicate working through Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson, who are trying to who have stolen our elections and committed fraud and treason here, are going after Stephanie Scott, who was the clerk who did her job. So now they're going to arraign her today down in Hillsdale for doing her job to ensure a free and fair election, which Nessel didn't have the guts to do because she's a gutless coward and passed the information when fraud was found out for sure. She passed it to the state police, the Gestapo, Whitmer's Gestapo there. And every single one of these people out there should be ashamed of themselves. Every state cop out there should be ashamed of themselves for going along with this nonsense instead of standing up and doing the right thing. I'm disgusted with all of you. Totally disgusted. Because every single person has not only the right, but the obligation to stand up and do the right thing. And they're not. They're not. So guess what? You have all gotten put into the basket of criminals on this side who has subverted our elections. And with that said, I'm going to bring on my buddy, who is a beast level, go after them kind of guy. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? You there? I think you're freezing up on me. Oh no, they're going to mess with my computer for speaking truth here and saying that Nessel's a criminal. So is Whitmer and so is Benson. You there, Jeff? Hello, Jeff. Let's see. Are you there?
I'm back. Yeah. A little
there you go.
Little time out there. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Donna. Yep, there's a lot going on, Donna, and a lot going on in the world of exposing these criminals, these Marxists, these demons, and what they've done to us. Look at Georgia, look at Wisconsin, look at what's coming down in Michigan. I think immediately what Georgia and Wisconsin, they need to reclaim their electors. It's proven. You had the Georgia testimony last week. I don't know how many ballots, the number keeps flip-flopping, but there are 114 laws broken that they proved in that state Senate hearing. So what's the problem? Reclaim the electors.
Yeah, this is crazy. So I'm going after the Michigan State Police today because this is like all kinds of wrong. I know a guy that he wrote up an arrest warrant for Whitmer because she failed on her oath of office, and she also committed subversion and sedition and treason. And he brought it to the state police and said, it's Mike Bambas. He said, did I do everything right? And they said, yes, but if you turn this in or if you try to act on this, they said, we will shoot you because we're here to protect the governor, even though, they wouldn't even let him file a charge against her. So you know what? The Michigan State Police right now is an organization that's a piece of shit and needs to be abolished. Because when you've got Nessel passing information on registering voters to the Michigan State Police, where they buried it, might I add, and then nobody acted on it, and then Nessel goes, I don't know what happened. And then now they're going after Stephanie Scott and Stephanie Lambert, and that's the Michigan State Police. Somebody should be, heads should roll over this. There should be such a mass firing and abolishment of the Michigan State Police and send them back into what they were supposed to be, which was a forensic unit, instead of pulling all the local policing away from the sheriffs into this great big bloated organization, which now stands against we the people instead of doing their jobs. And I know that a lot of the cops went from the sheriff's department into the state police because why? Because they pay more money. I hope the 30 pieces of silver is worth it to you people.
Yeah, we had Erin on from Palm Beach County, where the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department is acting as the brown shirts of the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections. So this is this is an ongoing. There's a pattern here, and the local law enforcement, even the Border Patrol agents. I mean, they're committing treason every day, and we need 3-4% of the population to rise up. I think we're at about we got about half that right now, I think, and it's growing quickly. I mean, just look at Trump's rally in Wildwood, Florida yesterday or Saturday, excuse me. I mean, was it 80,000? Was it 100,000? I don't know. The local elected officials, the fire marshal, the mayor, they say it was 100,000. And and then you have the woke-tards and the libtards saying, well, we estimate that it's only 73,000. But still, even if it's 73,000, it's the largest political rally probably in the history of our country.
You know why they can't get an honest count on that? Because all these woke-tards, libtards went through the government indoctrination schools. They can't even count.
Yep. Well, they can get an honest count. They just don't want to report it.
I'm not sure they can count, Jeff.
Well, if they used their counting method, there would be 81 million people there.
There you go. That's right.
And you talk about this persecution of the Stephanies, we'll call them, and we're seeing this all over the country with what they call fake electors, which we know there's that dueling electors it's a thing. It happened in the past. What about Tina Peters and Jenna Griswold? Jenna Griswold, she also filed the lawsuit to keep Trump off of the Colorado ballot, and that didn't go far. But this has to stop. And so what I've been calling for a very long time is we need to get our hands on the evidence that Jenna Griswold has in her evidence locker in her case against Tina Peters. Now, supposedly, I mean, and I know this to be true, that Tina Peters took copies of images from the actual election server that served the 2020 election in Mesa County, and for that, she was arrested, and not for basically she let in someone who wasn't authorized. There's a lot of fine details, and did she possibly break the law and use a swipe card and allow someone else to enter the server room? I wasn't there, but those are the charges, and it sounds plausible. But that's the big picture is the fraud. And myself and some of the folks that you've had on before, well, we took all of the tools, and Tina Peters happened to give us copies of these virtual machines as soon as she landed on Mike Lindell's plane at the first Mike Lindell Cyber Symposium back in I think it was August right after the election, so that would have been August 2021. And so I know them to be true. They didn't. I mean, unless she was flying, and she's not a technical person. I know that 99%, even higher confidence level. And if I could share my screen. I'm going to show you.
May I make a comment here? How come that they're calling out, like Stephanie Scott and Tina Peters for sharing that sort of information when we freaking got Serbia and all of these countries in our election software? They're writing the software, and the people who are working in the system are trying to expose it, and they target them. Are you kidding me? Every single one of them that touched this thing from the inside of our government should be immediately removed. Immediately. All of them. The entire thing. Top to bottom.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And, you get arrested, you get charged if you're the, if you're the whistleblower, but they let the crime go unpunished. And, we know what's going on. It's It's the deep state, and it's China's influence, and we're seeing it. It's all being exposed. So I'm not sure if my screen is up yet.
Just got up.
Okay, so let's see. So this is a presentation that these are slides.
Can you increase the size on that, Jeff?
I'm thinking this view I can. Still too small? Can you read the side panel?
Yeah, it's going to be real small. I don't know if people can read it or not, but that's
can you read the left where it's in blue?
Yes, this is vulnerabilities. Yeah, see that.
Okay, so we did a scan. Okay, now I'm not suggesting that every one of these vulnerabilities were exploited, but we ran a scan with for common vulnerability exposure on the forensic image that Tina Peters handed us fresh off the press and was arrested for. And what came back was 3,700 pages of vulnerabilities. Now, in an environment of cybersecurity, you don't want to see one, right? It's a zero trust. That's the philosophy of network security. Is we don't trust any. We're not going to say, well, that those 1, 2, or 3 vulnerabilities, that's okay. No one will exploit them. But it seems that this actual virtual machine that they were using has been in existence since 2004. So it's very outdated. And I think this is all by design. I'll give you another example. So this 3,700 page PDF, I didn't read every page, but I did a scan of the word vulnerability, because that's how it's reported. No, I'm sorry, plural. And it came back 8,700 times. So out of these 8,700 vulnerabilities, we know they were leveraged. And Tina Peters did nothing wrong. Tina Peters was right. So I'm not a lawyer. I know that these VMs, they exist. When I say VMs, I mean virtual machines. It's an image of a computer that we use nowadays, and this is basically the premise of the cloud. You have one big server called a host server, and then you have children. You have virtual machines under the host, and they operate as regular computers. So the state of Colorado, they have these VMs. They are in evidence, so we need to get them. And if you gave them to us, or if you hired a third-party forensics team, we'll tell you exactly where to look. I don't want to get too technical, but all these screens that I'm flashing, these are all vulnerabilities that we found on the 2020 Mesa County, Colorado server. So I've been calling for this for a very long time. And Jenna Griswold, she actually, I'm going to say she showed her colors by the 14th Amendment challenge, trying to keep Trump off the ballot. So
President Trump, the rightful president of the United States of
America.
Yes.
I mean, we see users, we know user names. I mean, this one is a smoking gun. I know it's small on the screen, but in the registry of an operating system, there are many settings that you just can't get to, by going through your admin panel, and a lot of technical settings are set here. And one of them, which is critical, it's called antivirus. So what they did was they disabled antivirus and also anti-forensics. So it makes it very difficult to do. So basically, the system it's not going to report on the notifications with this setting. It's antivirus disable of notifications. The other one was anti-forensics was enabled, which makes it very difficult to do forensics, as you would imagine. The third thing, that this is intentional now. This is the operating systems don't come out of the box like this. So it took an intentional act for someone to go into the registry and make these changes. And the third one was called time stopping. So they enabled time stopping. So what does that do? When you go and look at logs, it appears that things happened like in the year 1619 or 1720. So it makes it impossible to follow the breadcrumbs of the forensics trail. So
well, in Michigan, we had a lot of the information that was just gone, and including the timestamps on when people voted disappeared. They all set to 0.
Yeah, that's probably time stopping. I mean, right here. Who is Carol at Chicago.com?
Huh. Did you ever look it up and find out whose address that is?
Someone else was on that. I don't have the actual results. I think it was pretty well covered, and we were not able to. So that's we spent probably, I don't know, probably 250 to 350 hours on this. So if we can get the evidence out of Colorado, this is going to show yet again, so far, last week alone, or the last 2 weeks, Georgia, right? With the state Senate hearing. And then you have in Wisconsin, what was her name? She resigned. She admitted to printing 64,000 ballots.
Claire, isn't it Claire somebody or other?
Is that Voss? No, not Voss.
Here, let me look it up, because it's like this is significant.
So if you reclaim the electors and Biden is under 270, that means Trump's president. I'm not calling for Georgia to certify the election for Donald Trump, but you can't certify an election when 114 crimes were committed during the tabulation and the recount. So you can't certify it. You can't certify Wisconsin if 64,000 ballots were injected. You can't certify Colorado. We know it was breached. They, at the very least, Georgia and Wisconsin, they need to reclaim their electors. One more state does that, and there's no 270 for Joe Biden.
I mean, it's Claire Woodall, Milwaukee Election Commission Executive Director, Claire Woodall, probably a buddy of Jonathan Brader in the state of Michigan, because they were just, they were all in on this.
Yeah, so there's just a ton of technical stuff here. I don't want to get too far into it, but they ran scripts so they could hack. They're known as dehardening scripts. It just goes on and on. I mean, we see file paths that go back to China. Like they almost had, and it could be the poll book where everyone was using this Chinese company. They got indicted, and I think in Michigan could connect or something, and then it went to, for some reason, it went to a prosecutor in California, and it was one of the Soros prosecutors who decided not to press charges. But everything is there. You can take the screen.
Done like a dimensions and measures thing, like a mapping of on the connections here, and also the timelines of this. The question is what again? I'm sorry, I missed that. All the connections with these companies and how they move this through the United States to see exactly. I mean, do we have any graphics that actually map this thing out, as well as the people involved on that timeline?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's actually put all those pieces together, but we do know that that Dominion and was. I mean, look at Arizona, right? Where we have emails from Dominion where they're asking the guy in Serbia into Arizona's infrastructure, and from the top level down, Dominion, the owner, he lied under oath in testimony. It's but yeah, that would be a great thing to put together. I think that we need more manpower behind this movement to get this done. And everyone is kind of siloed and doing their own thing, and that's part of the problem with this, and there's been a lot of people that have or in my opinion, they're riding the election fraud gravy chain, and they're profiting off this. And once this is corrected, that gravy train stops. It's kind of like politics, right? If you solve a problem, you stop throwing money at it, like forever wars
and cancer therapies and all that sort of thing, the vaccines. Anybody that's taking money for this, for themselves to get rich off of this, or it's not even just getting rich, is part of the problem. You do not make a profit off of misfortune or things that are just evil. You do, if you do, you're part of the problem.
You're part of the problem. Exactly.
Just like, when the doctors say, well, we didn't know that it was a clot shot. Well, that doesn't matter. If you kill somebody by hitting them with a car, do you walk away unscathed? No, you're supposed to know what you're doing when you're in a position of being an expert like that. I'm disgusted with the whole thing, because it's just like the Michigan State Police. I'm disgusted with these people right now, because if any of them had any guts, they would stand up from the bottom up and write this thing. I know a detective who he was in Michigan here. He was in Grand Rapids when Bern Luton murdered the domestic terrorist organization BLM, came through Grand Rapids, and the chief of police told him to stand down in the stairwells. And I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you do that and stand down? Because it came from the mayor, Rosalind Bliss, and went to the chief of police, who they appoint. And then that appointment told them to stand down in a stairwell. Well, you know what? Individual cops, shame on them. They need to stand up and do their job. They cannot violate their own oath to protect and defend.
Yeah, it's I watched a great movie called Thank You for Smoking. Ever seen that movie?
No.
Thank You for Smoking. And all of this, it was about the tobacco companies, and why did you do it? And the response was, well, for the mortgage. They have to. They're threatened, and that's why mortgage, right? In Latin, do you know the translation? In Latin, it means grip of death. Death grip, yeah. Death grip, yeah. Or some say it's an engagement until death, or death grip, but it's not a nice word. And if people, that's what we're missing. I was looking at someone said, I think it was you when I put this together, because I did a podcast over the weekend, and then you wrote MAL, and we were talking about what's missing in society, and especially in governance, and it's basically it's MAL, right? It's morals, accountability, and leadership. And I saw MAL, and I started laughing. I'm like, Trump should use this, MAL, morals, accountability, leadership, and that's what we're missing. You have these every day. I'm more and more infuriated by. I always respect law enforcement. I served as a deputy sheriff, but you're not doing your job. You're aiding and abetting an invasion at the border, and also the governors who are busing the illegals. They're better off not busing the illegals. They're better off leaving them in their state. Well, it might cost a few dollars, but they'll be counted in the census, and Texas will now have more congressional.
We have one governor that's doing their job right now. Not one. They want to pick on Whitmer and such, but if there was one honest governor in the United States of America that said everybody out of the pool right now, they could turn this thing around so fast. It would be incredible. And either they don't have the guts, their money, their gravy train is tied into it, but there's not one of them that's doing the right thing. Not one.
Maybe there is one, and he was in Wildwood, New Jersey, and he might be the next vice president.
Well, we'll have to see.
What's his name? Bergquam? What is it? North Dakota governor? But yeah. Anyway, he opened up the rally in Wildwood, and I don't know. To me, he seemed kind of flat, and I don't know too much about him, but supposedly he's up on the VP pick.
Well, any one of them. You know what? I hate to say it, but President Trump has never made one good endorsement. Not one. And so when we look at President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, and endorsement, we got to think game theory. Has he done a good job? He's done a spectacular job. He's the greatest president these United States has ever seen. And I believe that firmly. But, you look at his policies, and I mean, we're not looking for Jesus Christ to be sitting in the seat. We're looking at a good man or a good woman to sit in there. There's, you know what I mean? God's God, and we're a bunch of little kids running around here trying to keep ourselves from skinning ourselves up on the playground and not throwing rocks at each other. But it's like, so there's always going to be room for improvement, no matter who sits in any seat, because we're not God. But with that said, he is the greatest president in the United States, in the history of the United States. But when you look at his appointments and endorsements, they suck. And they don't sort of suck.
Yeah.
They really suck. So then you got to think game theory. Okay, why would a person do this? Because I believe the good guys are in control. It's because once we get smarter and say, okay, he appointed that guy because he can't come out and say anything. And we get smart and say, okay, that guy's a criminal. He appointed him. And we realize that his appointments are going to be the people we shouldn't be following because he's trying to tell us something without coming out and saying it. It's like, a lot of times things can't be said within the positions, like the military can't say anything. You and I, we can say whatever the flipping what we want. And we can, it's like we can say, but people in the military can't say it. So they might be able to kind of throw out hints or clues, but they're not going to be able to say it flat out where, we can say Nestle's a criminal. She's a Marxist criminal piece of crap. She needs to be locked away forever. Never to see the light of day again. And the same thing with Whitmer and Benson and most of the legislature here. They've all committed treason. And the people that are in the positions inside, they have all subverted the United States. Anyone that had a little finger on that election has been involved in sedition, subversion, and treason against the United States of America. Every one of them. They should all be stripped of their citizenship. Every one of them. First action, strip them of their citizenship. They're done. And, and it's like, and then after that, then that's when it gets real. But that's what needs to happen because these people are criminals. They're enemies of the people. And
we can't let it happen again. We cannot let it happen again. Mm-hmm. And, I can't see why, or there should be much more outrage. Why they moved the goalpost because of a pandemic, and that the goalpost never got moved back. The pandemic's over. Why are we still voting by pandemic era laws in 2024, in 2022? Should not be the case. So,
well, you want to hear the next little bit of nonsense going on here that I found out? This new bird flu crap that's just like the old COVID crap. That's just like the flu crap.
H5N1.
Yeah, you know what they're doing in Michigan here? And this ties back to the farmers, okay? So this is how they're doing it in Michigan. Got this thing figured out finally. It's like we got the Dutch mafia sitting here all tied in with DeVos. I'm part Dutch, so I can go ahead and say it. Little Dutch mafia, the Dutchies that are next to Brussels and the IMF there. You got the Dutchy DeVosses, you got the Dutchy Van Andels, and the rest of these idiots that are part of the oligarchy here. It's all it's a Dutch mafia, people. That's what's going on. And you got the Dutch farmers that are around here, one of which is barn burned down this weekend. And the food supply they're going after, right? You know what these idiots were doing? The birds that were infected with bird flu stuff, they're throwing it into the dump. And part of it is in the dump over in Coopersville, which is tied into the big money. Some of the biggest landowner in the state of Michigan is King Ed Hannenberg, and he started the dump over there. Largest landowner in the state of Michigan. They're throwing dead infected birds in that. Oh, that's going to end well since you got carrying this stuff all over the place, and nobody's saying anything. It's just like with the masks and such. How many times did you walk outside, Jeff, and see masks laying all over the place on the ground. If this was a biohazard, how are you going to pass it around? Oh, we're just going to have masks everywhere. We don't have things like, containment or anything. If there was a real threat there, it was nonsense. This is absolute idiocy on the part of anyone. So they're throwing dead birds in the dump in Hannenberg's little enterprise out there. And he's tied in with Grand Valley, largest landowner, I believe, in the state of Michigan. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I mean, now you're hearing reports, there's 70 people in Colorado infected. That's how it starts. Right now, we're going to start hearing patient 1, ground 0 of bird flu. Put your mask on, get your vaccines ready. Let's, everybody get a jab. No, it's too dangerous. You can't go out to vote. They're going to try this. They're going to try it again.
And let's just push it further then. It's like, if we're going to go after the chickens, then why don't we kill all the songbirds while we're at it and all the other birds, because they're the ones that are spreading it. If we're going to go full on stupid, let's, literally, if we're going to go on full on stupid, let's push this thing to the logical idiot conclusion of this and say, well, now all birds are a threat. These people are dumb.
So that's a great point. And this bird flu H5N1, it serves two purposes, right? They're going to do that. They're going to slaughter millions of chickens. Not only are they going to instill the fear of God into everyone, but they're going to diminish the food supply, and it's going to all go back to whoever controls the food supply, right? Henry Kissinger controls the people. And this is a PSA for everyone out there. Apple cider vinegar, right? It's great for your health. Take a teaspoon a day, right? Kills everything. Guess who bought Bragg's? Bragg's is what, like the You know who bought them?
No.
Bill Gates.
You gotta be kidding me.
Bill Gates, and his foundation or whoever his group of people are, they purchased Bragg's. So So guess
what? Everybody buy a book like this, Vinegar Maker's Handbook. Screw them, make your own. And you know what? So Jeff, I am like wanting to start a chicken revolution right now. Everybody should be doing their own chickens. If we had chickens in every backyard or something like that, we would literally be able to step right around them. I mean, that is one of the greatest, screw yous anybody could say. And then make your own vinegar. Forget it. You can do this your own self. We don't need their help.
Yeah, it's too bad there are a lot of chickens out there and they're not working for the people.
Yeah, we need chicken revolution. Everybody needs to go and have their chickens in the backyard.
Well, isn't that part of like one of their agendas 2030 is that you have to report all livestock and all of your gardens, and they want to control the water, the food supply, everything.
Next thing they're going to want us to do is to dig the soil up. And how many microbes do you have in the soil? How many worms you have there, guys? We want to know your worm count.
Yeah, it's hopefully people are starting to see through this. And I had a conversation on Saturday about the Ukraine, Russian, kind of like a controlled war is what I'm thinking. It's kind of how Israel retaliated on Iran. We did it at Sunday and we gave you a day's warning so no one will be working. And this whole, taking sides on Hamas, or taking sides on Israel, taking sides on Putin. So in my opinion, and, I don't want to be, the term Putin puppet is kind of ridiculous. In my opinion, and I think that more people should just really take a critical look at what's going on there. Putin stands against he's anti-globalist, right? And that's why they hate him. So I'm anti-globalist. So what's the expression? Your enemy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So therefore call me a Putin puppet, but I'm pro Putin because just the simple fact that I'm anti-globalist.
Yep. I think that there's, it's like he may not be perfect. It's like anything else, but I mean, he at least had the guts to start blowing up these bio labs that were sitting right on his border. I'm pretty sure we got the same thing going on here with Canada and such. Did you know that when AT&T, when I got to get my facts on this straight, but one of the things that AT&T did to allow spying on the United States, and they didn't have to wiretap. All they had to do was cross one of the St. Lawrence Seaway, They had to cross it and then come back. They pulled it right out of those lines on the other side in Canada. That's how they started spying on the United States.
Yeah, and also AT&T provided internet to the Chinese balloon.
To the Chinese what?
Balloon, the spy balloon had internet, and AT&T provided the internet access.
Oh, man. All right, so
Yeah.
that's another company that needs to go down in flames.
Yep. I mean, look back at December 20th, 2020, the AT&T data center that was blown up, and that was on Christmas Day at 6 a.m. when no one was around, and supposedly a lone wolf carried this out because he was pissed off about his phone bill, and there was an AT&T store downstairs, but below the data center. But that data center was basically contained all of the traffic from Fulton County. I think all of Georgia passed through that dogleg of the internet, and part of the Patriot Act. I think they keep a copy of all the internet traffic for a certain amount of time, and they were worried about that. From what my research shows, you had the Orion SolarWinds Orion breach, where they tried to erase some of the breadcrumbs that I was just showing you on Mesa County. They were not successful. They panicked and they just decided to blow up the entire data center, and that covered a lot of the tracks for Brad Ratfaceberger and Brian Commie Kent. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot being exposed, and I have in Florida a great group of patriots. I'm not going to name names right now. It's still kind of under the table, but we petitioned for a statewide grand jury to investigate 10 counties in Florida about 18 months ago, and we were told that the grand jury was convened based on the evidence provided, and for a very long time we tried to follow up. We could get no information. Last week, I think Thursday or Friday, it came out that the grand jury convened, and they're recommending indictments against 10 Florida supervisors of elections. So now this is huge. So now I'm going back up to the northern part of the state. Florida's a huge state, long drive, but I'm back up. I was there last week. It's just so it's the Holy Spirit at work, man. That's all I have to say. This whole thing went quiet for a very long time, and out of the blue, I reconnected with some of the folks involved in this, and they said, "Well, I have more evidence. Why don't you come up and show us what you got, Jeff?" I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want to try. Well, can we do Zoom?" No, you got to come in person. I'm like, "Okay." So I showed them the evidence, the additional evidence that we have, and a lot of it has to do with SSA.gov and Help America Verify Voters. And when I showed them the amount of transactions that were flushed through that system, I'm not going to call them voter registrations because we don't know for sure, but someone is pushing the buttons. And there were 13,000 transactions in a 5-week period when there was an executive order signed by Governor DeSantis to shut the state down. So where did these transactions come from? People weren't going out registering to vote, going face to face with, at motor vehicle or at the supervisor of elections offices. They were all shut down. Texas is another one. They had, in a 5-week period, they had 800,000 transactions. The volume is relentless in Texas with Help America Verify Vote transactions, and that's and just for your audience who might not know, these are transactions that are, I'm going to say, authorized by the feds. When someone registers to vote, they only give the last 4 digits of their social security number. There's no picture ID. So if the feds say that these numbers match and the person's legitimate, the zombies in the counties, they say, okay, and they add them to the voter rolls. So how can you certify an election when you don't know if these voter registrations that the feds are basically forcing down the local jurisdictions' throats? How do you know that they're legitimate? How do you know that they're even citizens? And how can you certify an election?
You can't. They can't.
And we're uncovering what an S show this really is, because there's a federal law that says that really illegals can vote, is what the bill says. And according to the Florida state constitution, illegals, you must be a citizen to vote. So, now it becomes a situation of, well, can a federal law can't trump or can't be repugnant to a state's constitution. So that has to be challenged. All this stuff needs to be sussed out before we cast a single vote in 2024. And it's going to take, 3 to 5% of the population. People have to step up. They have to get off the couch. Stop going to these GOP local meetings where all there is infighting, and start pressuring your local officials. I mean, we've been lobbying, and this is another thing that really annoys me, and it should piss everyone off in Palm Beach County. For 3.5 years, we've been lobbying in front of the Palm Beach County commissioners on a monthly basis. There's been like 15 to 30 people. It's not a lot of people, but it trumps the number of people that are for centralized vote tabulation. We've been lobbying religiously for months, years, to decentralize the vote and not to have a centralized tabulation center. And what do they do in Palm Beach County behind everyone's back? They open a brand spanking new facility that's secure. We can't get to anyone. We can't really, they locked it down. They locked the people out. And they approved this, $35 million project in the dark of night after, this is not the will of the people. And, our last guest from a few weeks ago, Erin, was pointing a lot of this out. And then the supervisor of elections, kind of like Witless Whitmer does, she turning the state police against the people. Well, Wendy Satori-Link, she turns the sheriff's department against the people. And, Rick Bradshaw, he's playing along with this. And, people, we need to step up big time, and we need to effectuate change in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and I think your point that we're being distracted. There's all kinds of distractions going on here, and to make us like scatterbrained, to divide us, to keep us from actually moving as an effective group, And so like going after, and I mean, not mean going after, but talking to and pressuring those that are seated in the seats and quoting the law. This is what I've seen as the problem with the election integrity stuff right from the beginning, is everybody's looking at how things are done, but I want to see the actual laws that are broken. And that's kind of one of the things that I think needs to be focused on more, is what laws are broken so we can bring these people to justice, because they are lawbreakers. They have broken the law, and so that we can go straight to nullification and then prosecuting those that had their little finger on this for subverting the United States and I mean, there's so many charges. They're talking about, I don't know how many felony counts that they're bringing, 65 years of felony counts that they're trying to bring against that clerk, Stephanie Scott. And she was doing her job. She was doing her job. Michigan State Police, shame on you. And every single, and you know what? And nobody's saying scratch about this. The media is not saying anything about this. Why? Because they're a bunch of commie pigs that are on the leash of those that are sitting in the seats. And so, it's really too bad, but mainstream media is an abysmal failure. All they are is lap dogs to the politicians. And there's the people that are involved in this from the top to the bottom. It comes down to an individual choice. You've got to step up as an individual and say, no go to the money, no go to the wanting to have somebody approve of what you say or be in their clubs, because their clubs are criminal. They're cults, and they've set them up to operate as cults.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest problems, no one in Congress will ever talk about this, is it's called the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. It was part of the 2012 National Defense Authorization Bill, where they sneak in, everything. And this allowed, basically, the Smith-Mundt Act was passed during the McCarthy era, and it was used to combat communism. And it allowed, like, U.S. radio and other news agencies to broadcast anti-communist propaganda in other countries. what they did was they reversed that, and now, and this was under evil Obama, they basically allowed the media to become state controlled, and then you have these third parties like NewsGuard. So NewsGuard is basically filtering the news that's allowable, and they're also passing down what we call copy pasta, where maybe like on Sunday on one of the news shows, maybe Rachel Maddow will blow the dog whistle, and she'll say, oh, there were only three people at the Woodbridge, at the Wildwood rally, and then the media will say, well, there wasn't 100,000, there was 3 people, and that's the narrative. So no one in Congress is calling on to repeal that, and that just shows the leadership capture, right? Leadership is captured, and you have these organizations like the state assembly of lawmakers and the National Council of town council members or whatever. All these organizations that basically lay down the law, and all of the state legislators, they'll go ahead and pass the same laws. And in essence, through passing cookie cutter legislation, they're federalizing our elections. And what that does is, if there's 1 or 2 vulnerabilities that are known, well, they kind of legalize them through unlawful laws across the country, and there you have it. Your election is thrown. If each state had their own independent laws, and the one vulnerability couldn't spread nationwide. I see you have a document you're sharing.
Yeah, it's the bill you were talking about, the Smith Modernization Act. And so just wanted to throw that one up there a minute. And because people need to know, it's just like reading through all of the state constitutions. Did you know that the Constitution in the state of Michigan was illegally installed 1963? It's an illegal constitution. They didn't have the votes.
Really?
Do you know how much nullification this nation has to go through? We have to nullify back to probably, at least the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, well, we're at what? We're at the 118th Congress, right? We're going into the 119th, and every time there's a new Congress, the people lose freedoms. We need to go back. I don't want to, when I ran for Congress, I said this: I don't want to pass any new laws. I want to repeal laws. And one of the main premise of self-governance is we have politicians that are close to the people. The Congress was never meant to have only 435 members. There's 760,000 constituents in a congressional district. There are 22 countries in the world that have a smaller population than a congressional district. That number 435, there's only representation for K Street and for the globalists. There's no one to represent the people. And when you have such a small number, and they're all in one location in the district of corruption, they're easily influenced, and they're under leadership capture. And it's just so obvious. I mean, look at Speaker Johnson. He was vehemently opposed to sending money to Ukraine until he became speaker, and he cast a deciding vote to pass the last funding bill. So, everyone's like, well, motion to vacate and this and that. Well, you know what? You could put whoever you put in that position, as long as the system remains. Who are these people that are whispering and threatening our Congress? Look at Matt Rosendale. He's not running for re-election because he feels intimidated and the lives of his family were threatened. He said this, so he's not running again. But you know what? I want to put Matt Rosendale in a skiff of the people, and he tells the people who these people are, and there should be a congressional investigation, because I'm sure it's the same people that basically influenced many members of Congress, if not all of them, that influenced Mike Johnson to vote on Ukraine, that basically knocked Matt Rosendale out of politics, and so many more. Nancy Mace. They all say, yeah, we get threatened all the time. But no, where's the investigations? That's domestic terror. And the FBI is out there chasing soccer moms, when meanwhile, our government is under leadership capture, and it's through threats. It's the 51 intelligence agents. I'm sure they're playing a hand on it, who said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. So this is the root of the problem. The root of the problem isn't Mike Johnson or Kevin McCarthy. It's the evil force, the deep state, their mob squad, who are intimidating, bribing, threatening, blackmailing, whatever it is. That's what needs to be uncovered. You could change speakers all day long, and you're going to have the same end result.
Yep. Well, it's just like here, Betsy DeVos threatened me about a week and a half or so, and said, basically admitted to the fact that they tried to get rid of me twice, and then said, we got to get rid of Brandenburg, and mentioned this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, the next day I came right out on BNN. I'm like, screw you, Betsy DeVos, put your little wooden shoes on, click your heels, and let's go home, and such. It's like, whatever. And, and then you start looking at who they're playing ball with behind the scenes and such. You got to, when somebody threatens you, you got to throw it out there, regardless of what the consequences are, who said it, and then start looking downstream from them of who's involved in this. And I believe she's got a property like 2 houses down from Mar-a-Lago. And I think that I want to chase this down, but Brian Mast, who is one of your nemesises down there, I think he's got one down there too, right next to Mar-a-Lago too. So they're all playing, they're playing ball. And I got a feeling that President Trump was done with their nonsense, because he was down there at Epstein Island, but never participated with anything. They threatened him. That's what I believe to be true. I don't know. I wasn't there, but what I can see is I can see how they're working. And, it takes even one good man or woman within a criminal organization to stand up and say, this is wrong, which I believe is what the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, did. He stood up against them, even though they were going to threaten him. They were going to do all these terrible things for him. And he knew what he was walking in there. That's a smart guy there. He's not a dummy. And so he walked in knowing what he was going to face and did it anyway. And so now let's look at the rest of these criminals that are out there, like the DeVosses and such, and they're paid to play politics up here in Michigan, and all this stuff, and the cowardice of what went on there with Betsy stepping down on the 7th after J6, and then going ahead. Oh, see, they're going to want to shut me up because I won't stop talking about this. And so she steps down on J7, and all of a sudden, magically, Pence gets $22 million, the betrayer, the subverter, who President Trump basically had to agree to take. It's like they're all in bed together. They are enemies of the people, every one of them. And, it's like I had Judah Ayers. I'm friends with Judah Ayers, who put out that report on the DeVosses and what happened with Amway. With him, they destroyed. He was an IBO for many years, high level one, and they destroyed his business when he started seeing the problems there and all the satanic symbolism around these people. It's incredible. Their little Ford museum that they put in there, the little Ford museum. And you look, Ford was involved in all of this too. Ford was nothing more than a lapdog to Kissinger. And if you go to the museum, I got all kinds of pictures because I went down there on recon and took the pictures. I'm like, this isn't a Ford museum. This is a Kissinger museum. And, he's even got the Maltese cross in there. He's even got the Kennedy lantern in there. And if you don't know what the Kennedy lanterns were all about, I'm sorry, but it's just like a Trump endorsement. It's telling you who the bad guys are. Who else got one? Benson, of course. Who is running around in Thailand or Taiwan and such over there? Benson. Who is just over there? Whitmer. And spent, what was it? It was like 90. It's a crazy amount of money. And she went over there with their little puppets in the universities. They're all tied in. The indoctrination, the Let's Make America Stupid camps, the universities. It's crazy.
Yeah, you talk about the children and making them stupid, and I talked about my EMF radiation exposure and how I felt and what it did to me, and I'm 100 yards from a school. So when that was up in New Jersey, but over the weekend I went out and checked 8 schools in Florida, and every single one of them has a cell site within 100 yards.
Well, there's a company that's trying to install them on or near all of our schools. I was interviewing a group from Ada, which is in the middle of DeVos land up there, just so everybody knows. And Tubergen, who sits up there on 600 acres, and Marcy, his wife, who's a patron saint of the grassroots up there. Are you kidding me, people? It's like it's like it's unbelievable. They were trying to put a 5G tower right next to the school there.
They're doing it
in DeVos land up there.
Yeah, we need to expose who are the people pulling the permits, right? Who are they? Who's behind this? That's what needs to be exposed.
There's corporations, and I'm sure those corporations, if you start digging back, you're going to find behind them and who's making money and who are killing children. They are killing our children.
Yeah, that's next on the agenda after we do this push to get a fair and free election in 2024. And I like, once again, we spoke about this last week, or it was last week. Yeah. It's a smoking gun with these illegal immigrants registering to vote. We know that during COVID, these governmental agencies were shut down. So these transmission of data requests to check on voters, it's electronic. It's coming from somewhere else. It's not organic. This is what we need to get to the bottom of this. And this I think they can't talk their way out of. So what I want to, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of important business that needs to be addressed, but we need to prioritize November 8th, 2024. Not only for Donald Trump to win, but the down ballot, we need to take the House. We should have 20 to 40 seats majority. We need to take the Senate, and that's the fastest road to recovery to make America constitutional again.
Yeah, it's so important. And, going back to the Bragg's vinegar and such, being bought out by all of so many of these little companies that are nice family-owned companies are getting bought out by these large organizations, these large corporations. You know what? If somebody sells out to one of these corporations, they become a traitor in my book. You cannot go for the 30 pieces of silver. You cannot do this and sell out to these corporations, because all you're doing is centralizing our food supply, the way things should be run from a local perspective, and we need to do that. So, if they're not going to do it, we're going to have to make each one of us a decision to get off the farm here, the plantation, the mind bending that they've got everybody enslaved to. And chicken revolution time, guys. Everybody get a few chickens in your backyard, and such. It's like make your own vinegar. Figure that out. It's not that difficult of a process. Apple cider vinegar, you can make it by fermenting the apples. I mean, this is not that difficult. We can replace them. We don't need them. This is like the thing in Ants, even though it's a Disney, which is child victimization organization, which is Disney. It's like all these people, they're a bunch of pedophiles. All you got to do is look at their CFO's tweets that he put out there, and he said some despicable things. Then they tried to scrub it, but you know what? Digital is forever, which is just a beauty. And if you don't have anything to hide, why wouldn't you just say what's on your mind? We don't have anything to hide,
Well, you could really sum all of what you just set up very, very succinctly in that, we're starting to trying to accept socialism. It's great. Everyone's going to, it's a great thing for society. But what's the goal of socialism? Is communism. And the goal of communism is for the government to basically control production of everything from oil to apple cider vinegar. So, this is what I think the common person can understand is socialism's goal is communism. Communism's goal is to control the food supply, energy, control all of the output. And that's what's going to help maybe motivate another 2 to 3% of people like you and I to get into this fight. And let's focus on 2024, November 8th. And let's get Let's get rid of this, rip this government out, and work on the deep state.
Rip it out by the roots is what needs to be happening, and it needs to get thrown in the brush pile and incinerated. All the criminality. I want to end with this because I posted this last week. I wanted you to put this in perspective because the NGOs are a huge part of this. Listen to this.
Oh, so yeah.
I posted this last week. We have in Michigan 59,865 organizations in Michigan. The IRS lists 54,987 active tax-exempt organizations in Michigan, including 43,972 501c3s, to which you can make a tax-deductible donation. So with that said, these organizations in a state that has 11 million people, this includes children and unemployed, okay, has 813,404 people that work for NGOs, $96 billion revenue each year, and have assets of $337 billion in the state of Michigan. We have to abolish it. Tax exempt does not mean anything other than a cute way to money launder and not show a profit on the balance sheets. All of them need to be axed.
I agree. I mean, the NGOs are the ones orchestrating the invasion at the border. They're registering the voters.
Yeah.
They're leveraging the CBP1 app. And what do? As soon as the registration period is over, and early season voting starts, they change their uniforms from registering voters, and they put on their ballot harvesting hats. Look how many you have in Michigan, and you wonder why. That Michigan is basically under communist rule.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson. It's the population that's allowed this. It's the people that are employed by the Michigan State Communist Gestapo police that's doing the dirty work for Whitmer and Nessel and Benson. It's the people that the doctors that give the jabs because they're afraid of their jobs. It's the people that refuse to stand up and take office. It's every one of us that refuses to be unmovable. It's the people that sell their businesses and corporation to make the big money. That's the problem right there. And when we get this turned around on an individual basis where people refuse to capitulate, this will be done, and it'll be done quickly. And so, well, Jeff, as usual, you're fabulous. Thank you for coming on today.
As are you. Thank you for everything you do, and we'll talk to you soon.
I have one skill. It's being ornery, right? So, and being done with all of this.
Yeah.
So thanks. We'll see you next Monday. And if anything else needs to come up, I'll flip the cameras on and we'll go from there. Okay.
Take care.
All right,
Thank you. Yes.
We'll be back in just a minute here. I'm going to play a quick intro and I'll be right back. Second hour with Reagan Box. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 13th day of May 2024. And I'm going to go to my guest right away. It's Reagan Box. How you doing, Reagan?
Hey, Donna, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on. I'm glad you got your camera working today.
Finally, we were having all sorts of issues last week.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when they don't want us talking about stuff. They definitely knock us off.
No, this AI is getting scary. That's one thing I really want to start regulating. It's really bad when you think something and it comes up for sale on Facebook.
Yeah, no kidding, right? They're like selling kids are like Wayfair that had, a shelving unit for like $80,000 or something like that. We're getting smart though. We're getting it figured out. So we have a lot in common because we're both horse gals.
Yes, I'm actually, when I get done with this, I'm going to go out and start 2 colts. Today will be their second saddling and second rod.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fun. I was out on a young horse yesterday that he's still got. I've got two of them that I'm working on. They're still a little bit baby brain, and when you're on them and they're kind of like they're like this, they're like looking at everything. So you're on a trail and they're wandering yet, and they're kind of looking around. It's funny.
I had this one horse in training named Squirrel. I named him Squirrel because he was just such a blithering idiot. And I'm working him on a cow. He's doing really great. I'm thinking I'm going to quit him. Then he's like starts skipping off chasing butterflies. I'm like, really,
Yeah,
man?
you're like baby brain. You're like, okay, focus.
Oh, it's horrible. People have no clue. Like they're not. Sometimes I wonder about their intelligence.
Well, the one that I was on yesterday, he doesn't. I ride him with just a halter, and and he's okay with that. He really doesn't like a bit, so I just use a rope halter on him, and that's good enough for him. But he doesn't quite understand the commands. So if he's real smart, so then he gets frustrated. So I'm trying to get him, we're trying to get him past that a little bit.
I start them in the rope halter, and I don't tie the lead rope around. I make them take me slinging the rope over their head and changing direction. And both of them were doing figure eights yesterday, first rod, first saddling.
Oh, that's cool.
That was really neat watching them. Like, yep, no buck, no fight, no nothing.
That's fun. Well, this guy is finally happy to be outside. He was excited about going out yesterday, which was one of his first times that he was actually happy to be on the trail. So, well, let's talk about what's going on down in Georgia and your Senate run and how things are, what you're up against. Tell everybody what's going on down there, please.
Well, I'm going against John Ossoff, Democrat, and I hear our Governor Brian Kemp's going to join in. And like we discussed last week, Kemp, through the Georgia First policies, is taking away the big donors from our state party and funneling them into the Georgia First account, which is his campaign basically. And he's also given all of our state reps that he likes campaign money and funneling it that way. So there's that to contend with, and just normal politics, don't want to give me the time of day, even though the people are getting behind me. And it's a lot to be up against.
Yeah, they want to silence anybody that's actually for real. And to put it out there and expand to your point, what you're saying, if Kemp were going to do anything that was actually of noteworthy or actually writing what's going on in the nation, he would have. It's like Biden. Doesn't matter what party you're on. There's either good people or bad people. And if they've been in there for a while, they're bad people. They're compromised. They're do-nothings.
Well, and like I tell people, don't fall for their crap. I mean, they'll sign good bills into legislation just 6 months before an election to get a vote. But the rest of the time, they don't care. Remember their whole record. Don't remember just the 6 months before an election.
Yeah, they're just playing politics to get back in office so that they can have the gravy job and be part of the problem.
It's like Lyndon B. Johnson signing in welfare. It wasn't for good reasons he did it. He said, we'll get all the N-words to vote for us for 150 years with this. People just don't understand the politics behind it, and it's really frustrating, people not opening their eyes. Thank God, I think the world is starting to really open up to what's going on. I think all the Trump trials and everything else, they're seeing the indifference. They're seeing the games and manipulation that's played.
Yeah. So what are the big issues that you want to work on, or what would you like people to know about you?
Oh, there's so many issues. I think right now the border's the biggest issue that we need to focus on, just because it creates problems for everyday Americans. We don't know who's coming into our country, the caliber of person they are, CCP, Muslim extremists, whatever. Then it creates a biosecurity hazard, not only for people, but for our animals and agriculture industries. Stuff like lettuce, it gets contaminated when these illegals are going through the field and they have to use the restroom. That's how your lettuce gets E. coli, listeria, and the rest of it. And that's why we've had so many recalls lately on our lettuce, just because of the influx. Our animals, like right now, we're about to have an influx of Haitian illegals. Well, in Haiti, they have brucellosis going through their cows. Well, a cow gets brucellosis in the United States and it has to be euthanized immediately. these cows are being shipped all over the country, we could infect our whole beef industry and not even know it.
Well, they know what they're doing. It's just like I was talking to Jeff, what I was told, or what we're investigating right now is them throwing dead birds from this bird flu into the dumps. They're just throwing them there. So I'm like, well, that's a beautiful way to spread it, because you got the carrion that are in the dumps that will land, eat off these infected birds, and it's gonna be everywhere.
Well,
So
not only that, but it lives in the soil for a period of time. Like parvo with dogs can live up to 7 years. Brucellosis in cows, it can live in the soil for 90 days, and it can live in water for 120 days. So I mean, it's creating a wasteland of just death and destruction.
yeah, through pathogens. And
Yeah.
I have to believe that it's just like the clot shot, the vaxes and such, that it's a bioweapon. You know, if you don't contain it. And Whitmer here, I mean, we had masks all over the ground. If it was really that much of a risk, or if they weren't trying to spread it, the masks that people discarded should have been incinerated. And
Well, because they're a petri dish. It's a
Yeah.
petri dish. You think it makes you breathe out of your mouth. When you breathe out of your mouth, you're going to breathe warm, moist air, which is a breeding ground for bacteria. I would love to see the petri dish test that came off a face mask after 8 hours of wear.
Right.
I guarantee you that the bacteria and viruses on it, it's ungodly. I would never wear one just because of that.
Yeah, it's kind of a disgusting thing to me. I look at the face masks and I'm like, man, that's disgusting. God created us to breathe air, to get rid of stuff. And sun comes out, starts purifying things on the planet. God has a good plan here. We don't need to screw it up.
Yeah. I mean, well, you look at the Spanish flu and what was it, 1908 or whatever. I mean, they said half of the deaths or better were caused from people trying to put masks on. We've got to get some common sense and reality back to all of this. I mean, it's just crazy how naive people are, and they say trust the science, but there's no science behind anything they're saying, whether it's global warming, viruses, transgender, whatever. There's no science to it.
Yeah, true story. So what else have you seen in the news lately that's disturbing to you besides the borders? I mean, we've got all these things that we're fighting here. And I know you were at the sheriff's meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was. There's just so much that hits me every single day, like the continual money going to Ukraine, just watching the dollar decline and the rise of BRICS and everything. That's really disturbing to me, because unlike the Great Depression, where our government has told everyone make a garden because we won't be able to help you, our government's not warning people at all. They keep lying to us and telling us we have a great economy. And it's really scary to think that at any time now this could collapse. And when it does, people, the way they printed out money, we're going to have hyperinflation. People will not be able to buy food, and people don't have anything to fall back on. They don't have those survival skills. And so that's one thing that really concerns me, considering here in Georgia, we're already in the top 10 states of people going hungry every single day. 1 in 7 elderly and 1 in 12 children goes hungry every single night here in Georgia. And it's like, man, this is such a simple fix. One thing I thought about starting is a nonprofit where we work with churches to build gardens on the church lots, because most churches have a big church lot. We have 47,000 churches across America. And then the preacher asked the congregation, hey, would you like a garden? If you can't do it, we'll get the youth group to come out, till up your land, plant whatever fruits and vegetables you would like. You get to keep what you want and donate the rest. We could feed a whole community in no time, and people would be eating better. They'd be saving money. I mean, it would help on so many levels.
Decentralization. I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you don't need the government for this. And a pack of seed is what, $2.50, and you could probably do 3 or 4 gardens from each pack of seeds. I mean, it would cost next to nothing. Your tiller would be your biggest expense, and I'm sure someone would donate a tractor or tiller.
Yeah, and just go around. That's the way they used to do it. They have plow days, and my dad used to do that. They'd have plow days, and they'd show up with their tractors and such, and
I
help
mean,
each other out.
I do that on my property. I only have 3 acres here, but I've got my ducks, chickens, and geese. Get meat and eggs from all of that. People are going to hate me. I hear what's going on with Christy Nome, but yes, I do slaughter my own ducks. And then I have my bees. I get my fresh honey from my bees. I've got a stock pond. And so like I'm set. I've got my vegetable garden. It's great. People don't realize how much a clean living really just helps your overall health and well-being.
Yeah, it's good for your mind too. You know, you go out there and dig in the dirt for a while and try to flush all this political nonsense out of your head and what's wrong, and realize that all we really have to do to fix this is go back to God and the way He intended us to live in the first
He
place.
did. You notice in the Bible, anytime a city got real big, God destroyed it. Every single time. There's something about it that's just bad for the human soul, I think.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? I think it is that when people have too much time on their hands, they spend too much time getting agitated by other people instead of being productive, and then they start picking at each other. It's sort of like when you put rats in a cage. The rats will get that way, or any animal. Any animal, if you put them in, chickens, well, for gosh sakes, if you have chickens, too many chickens in an area, they literally cannibalize each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good for people, and I wish people would wake up and see that. You know, I think that's what makes my Senate run so different is I have lived such an agrarian lifestyle. I worked on a 40,000 acre ranch in New Mexico at one point. Like it was old school. We'd gather the cows, rope them, and drag them to the branding fire to brand them and everything. And I got to see what life truly is, and that communication and work ethic, and learn what makes people successful, what makes animals successful. I mean, whether it's horses or people, it's that heart and soul in them that makes them great. And that's something I strive for every day. And most people never get to experience life like that.
Yeah, there's something really different when you work with animals, and it is a game changer, and or garden and such. So I'm on right now for chicken revolution. Everybody needs to have chickens in their backyard. That's Donna's chicken
Oh, I
revolution.
love having mine. But there's an old cowboy saying, your horse is your mirror image of your soul. And so anything you carry, good or negative, it reflects in your horse and your horsemanship and everything else. Anger, frustration, being afraid and fearful. And so I took it as an opportunity to really learn myself, because my horses were telling me everything I needed to know about me to train them. And I think that is just something that's beautiful.
They definitely talk to you, don't they?
Oh, they do. They do. You just have to be willing to listen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So what else on your platform, and what other difficulties are you running into besides being stonewalled in Georgia?
Really, it's just a money issue is the biggest thing. With inflation and everything else, the grassroots everyday working American just doesn't have much to give. And so that's probably my biggest frustration right now. But another issue in my campaign I'm wanting to work against, being involved with animals and livestock. I know how badly our healthcare industry is screwing us over. It's just price gouging. There's no other word for it. Why should a human ultrasound machine cost $15,000 and I can buy the same machine with the same specs for animals for $1,600? A incubator for newborn babies, $20,000, but I can buy one off Amazon that fits a 20-pound dog for, I think, $125, and for another $100 I can get the oxygenator and the nebulizer. How many low-income families would have better health care at home, that they can afford and not pay for the rest of their life? And even the medication and stuff, they jack it up just because they know people want to live and people want to have a quality of life. And so they jack up the medications, and it's just absurd. And kind of like you were talking about in the last segment, all these government agencies are coming down on the American people with all these rules and regulations that Congress needs to do their job. and actually come up with these laws and regulations. They're all illegal. Congress didn't put them into play. Why are we allowing this? Not to mention there's 400 plus federal agencies, and most of them are replicated within every state government anyways. Get rid of them all and send it back to the state where it's supposed to be. A, will save taxpayer money. B, will hold our government more accountable. And C, like, we don't have that stifling effect on the economy from all these laws, rules, and regulations. Just like I was wanting to get something made here in America to sell, it was going to cost $500 a unit to have it made, where I can get it made overseas. Even after paying tariffs and shipping, it's $100 a unit. We can't compete because of our laws, rules, and regulations. And it's just really sad.
I think it's by design too. You know, we used to have mills down in South Carolina, Georgia. The Carolinas were the big area for the mills and such, because my uncle worked in textiles and such. And now they've even shipped a lot of that old machinery over to India. So we would have to build these industries from the bottom up. But I think there's ways of doing it that we can bring the cost down, but it's going to take a little bit of tooling.
Yeah, we're going to have to get rid of some of the regulations. To me, they're just way past overdone, and it just makes it too hard to be competitive. And then we need to open our system up to a more free market system, even on healthcare. I think that'd help immensely when people had choices and they couldn't just jump prices up at random and at will. I mean, this one will blow your mind being involved in horses. I can buy an MRI machine for horses for 1/10 of the cost of what the human ultrasound machine cost, or a human MRI machine cost. Now you'd think being that much bigger, it would be more expensive, but no, it's price gouging, and it needs to be addressed. That would help every single American so easily. Another thing is these bailouts and bail-ins. I'm to the point, let these businesses fail and they'll learn good business practices. You look at SVB Bank, they gave nearly $80 million away to Black Lives Matter and Antifa and BLM in the 2 years prior to the bank failing. That's money that could have saved the bank. And then the taxpayers have to foot the bill because of bad business practices. It's insane to me. I don't understand why our government just won't let businesses fail, because there's always a business waiting to come up if we just let them.
Yeah, and I know this is an unpopular decision, but that's true in for individuals too. The individual bailouts, like the mortgage bailouts, or the money that's being to bail out students and such. Sometimes if you make bad decisions, you've got to be responsible for them.
You've got to learn the repercussions from it, and you'll make better decisions. I mean, all these people going to trade school and getting out and being able to start out making $60,000 to $100,000 a year, and they're having to bail out people that paid $100,000 for a degree for studying Taylor Swift.
Yeah, like the gender studies nonsense. I don't know about you, but I can tell you what, this horse lady knows the difference between men and women. The dogs aren't confused. The chickens aren't confused. The horses aren't confused. Nobody's confused on a farm. You know, you
don't see these issues in any other species but the human species, and we want to act like we're more intellectual than animals.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I don't know. I think all these people too that are under the Palestinian flag fighting for a foreign country, the domestic terrorists that are fighting for Palestine on American soil, who are being funded. I think we should give them a chance to live in Palestine. You got a one-way ticket. You know, you're fighting under a foreign flag, ship them out.
And a lot of them are gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever, and they don't realize in that culture they're not accepting of that, not accepting of all. And that Muslim culture, they go over there, the penalty for that is stoning, mutilation, and death.
Yeah.
They just don't understand the dynamics of it. And it's like, study religion a little bit, study how that they're taught to think. And I think you're going to change your tune. Yeah, like, these aren't very nice people.
Yeah. Just because you say that it's supposed to be that way doesn't mean it's that way at all. once you get out of Dodge here, and you have to come face to face with another culture who hates you for a number of reasons. You can't just prance in there and say, I own the place like they do here.
Well, and that's what I found so appalling with our military when they put out, I think it was the Marines last year for Gay Pride Month, had the military helmet with the rainbow colored bullets in it. And I was like, that's really irresponsible. This could be used as propaganda against our troops, which are already hated around the world, and say all American troops are gay and transgender. Look, this is what this means. Mm-hmm. And so it's just putting our troops in more danger. I'm going to say probably 2/3 of the world being gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual is illegal. Yeah. I know in Russia, any practicing Muslim country, it's all illegal. Most of Africa, it's just not good optics. And it's not that I have anything against that, but we've got to realize not everyone thinks like us.
Well, and there's no place for that to have special interest, because that's exactly what it is, a special interest to cross over into a government function. I mean, if we put like a Christian, or we put a cross or something like that on a helmet, or I don't think that that's appropriate either. It's like they've got a job. I mean, we all have our own personal belief system, and I'm a Christian. I'm a very, very committed Christian. I'm a believer in Christ, right? But I don't think that that's necessarily, you should put something in there that, do you know what I mean? It's like
it can be divisive for those that aren't.
Yes, and
their job or a distraction. Let's say a distraction.
A distraction. It's just
they I focus on their mission, not on other things.
What do you think about women in combat? Do you ever go there?
When I got out of high school, I thought about joining the military. Then I realized I couldn't do a push up or pull up. And well, part of it was I was 5'11" and weighed like 110 pounds when I graduated high school. So I just was too skinny. But, as I've matured and grown up, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea. It's a distraction for the men. It leads to bad situations a lot of time for those women, of rape and just different things. The men end up getting in fights because there's like probably 3 women to every 10 men, 11 men, something like that. And it's just probably not the best idea.
Yeah, you gotta go for the goal of what's the best way to win, the mission that you're on. And if we put other people in jeopardy just because we want to have things our way, I don't think that's a great thing. I know I was asked to go down to the border, and I'm like I'm not going to the border. I don't want to get in front of a camera, first of all, just to say I was there as, somebody that's just there for optics. You don't need somebody who's 60 years old going down there to the border, man. I want like some 20-some-year-old Marines that are down there that can run 5 miles, where I would be in there wheezing for air after
you'd be the bait.
I would be. What is the purpose of this? Why would you even suggest something so ridiculous? You do not want a 60-year-old woman on the border when you can have a whole bunch of young guys, Marines, that can best me with strength 100 times over. That would be stupid.
So doing what I do with the horses and everything, this is hard for me to say, because I'm one that I feel like, just because I'm a woman, you don't tell me I can't do it. But I've had to come to the realization, especially stepping into the political arena, there are some things that just aren't plain safe for me. Like the border situation, me being a 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed woman, if something did happen, I'd be a target. And you've got to ask yourself what's more valuable in my life, or this,
or their life trying to rescue you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's not right. And I've had to, in doing this, the men have been really forceful and just come up and say really inappropriate things to me, and I'm having to take that in consideration now and not go places by myself. And I think that as a woman, you've got to be smart about things and quit, lose the ego. It's there for your protection. That common sense factor. It's hard to say, it really is, but we don't need to be everywhere.
Yeah, we have to take our own strengths and be that unique individual that can do great things. Like you're a really great speaker. You're an outstanding speaker, and you organize your thoughts really well. Every time I've talked to you, that's what's hit me very clearly, is that you have a clear thinking process.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's really funny because I was telling one of my friends, it's so unnatural to me because, like, out in New Mexico, I could go 2 weeks at a time without ever seeing another person. So, this public speaking and everything I've had to really work on because it just is not natural to what I've been doing.
How did you break past that? Because I can tell you a funny story. I talked to one of my horses. I set up the camera for 2 hours, and I'm like, "Okay, buddy, we can do this. We can do this." And had my horse there trying to talk to my horse because I was not someone who's comfortable in front of the camera at all, and it was a struggle.
I just made myself start going county to county and speaking, and I learned that instead of having like massive notes on everything I was doing, just have bullet points laid out so I can look down, look at a bullet point and stay focused. And now I've trained my mind to work that way.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I think too, like I fought a little bit of dyslexia a little bit growing up. And so I constantly have to teach my brain to think and how to think. And it's just something I've learned over the years.
So what could the viewers do to help you? What help do you need right now?
Like I said, financial help is the greatest thing. You can go to my website, reaganforgeorgia.com, and you can do a monthly donation for like $5 a month even. And $5 a month helps. It buys a couple gallons of fuel.
Reagan, is it the number 4 or is it F?
No, spelled out.
Georgia?
Yes, ma'am. And you can also go to Facebook, Reagan Box US Senate 2026. And I think it's Reagan Box US _ Senate on Instagram.
Okay, let's bring you up here. Hang on a minute. There you go.
Yeah, that's me.
There you go. I like your pictures down here. I did look at this before, and you got horse pictures on the site.
I think there's about.
It's under about.
Yeah.
There you go. So very cool. I love that picture right there.
So that horse, his name was Valiant, and he was so funny. He's a stallion, and he loved drinking beer. He saw you come up with a can of beer, and he'd go crazy. And so he had his own beer bucket. I'd give him 2 pints of beer before I worked home.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, he could guzzle 2 pints in less than a minute. He was quite impressive.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, his eyes
he was actually sold to Venezuela. He went to Venezuela.
What type of horses do you work?
Hunting horses. I teach them how to work a cow.
Is there a specific breed, or because I'm not familiar with cutting horses?
They use quarter horses.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're very specifically bred within quarter horses. Like they like certain bloodlines. But yeah, they're small. Like I said, I'm 6 feet tall. He was probably 14 or 14.1.
Oh, okay. So they've got a low to the ground, so they're pretty agile. Very cool. I have Pasafinos, and so all of our horses are Venezuela, are not Venezuela, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and such. That's where a lot of them originally came from. But now we've got them here in the United States, and they're a wonderful type of a horse. So
I've actually used them to work cows too. They do really good because you don't bounce and move, so they don't scare and rattle the cows like a quarter horse trot's pretty rough.
Yeah, they're real agile, and they're more like a dog than other breeds. They get super. They've got a high emotional quotient, so it's kind of funny to watch because I've had other types of horses. I've had a quarter horse. I've had an Arabian. I've had an Arabian Appy mix and such. And the Pasels are they're more like a dog. Like if you drop the reins, they'll follow you because they want to be with their human.
Well, all mine follow me. I had one I taught to stick out his tongue, and he would let me grab his tongue, and I'd lead him with his tongue. And he'd lay down when I told him to, and then while he's laying down, I'd get on him and tell him up, and he'd jump up with me on him. I paid $300 for that horse out of the slaughter pen. He'd been in 8 states, and no one could ride him.
Oh, that's funny.
Leave it to me.
You were his person.
You know, he was one of those horses. He had to have a job. If I didn't ride him at least 15 to 20 miles a week, he would buck. He would buck. But as long as you knew that going into it, he was great. Like I roped horses on him. I did a 25-mile race and came in third out of 50 horses. He did 25 miles in 2 hours and 56 minutes, I think.
Wow. Well, that's
yeah. And so, but he is a handful.
He's a Pony Express horse right there.
He was. After 12 and a half miles that we had to go in for a vet check, and he started rearing up and pawing, waiting on my number to be called after 12 and a half miles. I was like, slow down, buddy. Just slow down.
Yeah, I will not stand for any reason whatsoever. So let's talk about the sheriff's meeting you went to, and who you met there and why you felt it was important to go to that.
You know, there's just, our sheriffs are such a pivotal part of our culture, and people don't realize like the strength a sheriff has to push out the federal government and get control. And that's why I think it's so vitally important to get sheriffs in office. And meeting Sheriff Richard Mack, meeting just everyone I did there, General Flynn, Mike Lindell, networking with the people is a great experience. And I think it's just a real blessing, the doors God's opening through all of this, and everyone wanting to step in and help with the campaign. I think they realize what it is to have a good person in office now. And you know, one of the issues I see federally that I want to address so much, and I don't know why no one in DC is, why aren't we protecting our sovereignty as a nation? We've got the UN, the WHO, and the WEF all trying to write international law that will supersede our Constitution. And no one's talking about this. Everything they're wanting to do with misinformation and disinformation will attack our First Amendment right. And as soon as that's done, they're coming for our guns, and I guarantee it. And people need to watch this. This is so pivotal and so important in our times now. It's really dangerous. And like you were speaking about in the last segment, the Smith Modernization Act, Obama did that in 2012. He snuck it into a defense bill, and it allows propaganda to be used on the people. And that's why people are so mixed up and confused now. And you can watch 3 different news agencies and get 3 different stories on what happened. It's not like the news was 20 years ago when you could be educated and watch it. And I think
how to think.
It really is scary. It really is scary. And I was even noticing the ads that come up on like my cell phone and games and stuff that show up. Everything's about, well, you can earn money while playing this game. They're trying to numb people out. They're trying to get it where they don't think. They're trying to get it where they don't have the social skills to interact, because that's the bottom line of everything. Get it where we're isolated, get it where we're easily controlled and manipulated, and then take over.
How would you reverse the damage that's been done in that area?
I don't know if you'll ever reverse the damage totally. I think it's waking people up. It's people getting involved in their communities. And like I tell people personally, you know, no political rhetoric, no speech I say is going to change people's lives, probably. My policies might, but what's going to help draw people to the Republican Party is we've got to start going into these communities, these poor communities, and volunteering. A mechanic go in and fix a single mom's car for free so she can work and better her life. You know, help mow elderly people's yards that can't, go paint houses, show them that they're worth something and worth value. But that's part of the Christian tenet our country was founded on: morality, religion, and knowledge. And without that self-governance that comes from religion and morality, our whole social structure falls apart. That is exactly why John Adams said, without morality and religion, our Constitution will be broken as a well goes through the cords of a net. We need that self-governance from a higher power because human nature is innately bad.
That's a hard thing for people to swallow, but that's the truth. And the Bible states it clearly that there's something wrong with us. Fundamentally, human beings have fallen. And so the only one that can redeem us is God himself.
Christian or not, no one should have problem with the 10 Commandments, because who wants a world full of murderers and cheats and thieves and everything else? Like, I don't see how the 10 Commandments can be misconstrued. Whatever religion you are, you should want those basic things in your life.
Basic rules.
Yes. And this is something I've really prayed a lot about as I'm walking into this. Yes, I'm a Christian, but I can still respect other people. And I think that's something Jesus did magnificently. He would go into these places. He didn't condemn anybody. He just showed them through his actions. And I think that's what we've got to do every single day. But as Republicans, we've really got to start changing our tune and showing people we care. And that means taking care of them at their basic level. It broke my heart back in December. I had to go to our state capitol in Atlanta. And right across the street is this beautiful church. And it's pouring down rain and it's cold. And there's a guy in a wheelchair with a tarp around him trying to stay dry, homeless man. And I'm like, everybody underneath the gold dome should feel really bad about themselves that this is going on. There are 50 homeless people sleeping under a bridge by our state capitol. And trying to stay out of the rain. And no one's doing anything. And I mean, I know some people choose to live that way. They want to live a hobo lifestyle, and that's fine if that's the case. But the sheer fact with drugs and the mental issues going on and soldiers with PTSD that can't come to a grip with reality, and we're doing nothing to help this and combat it, is heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, we're a broken nation, and all that money's going to Ukraine and everywhere else on the planet instead of taking care of the people here, which is what we pay our taxes for, is to take care of American interests.
It's like with illegals, they're getting more money than soldiers that were willing to fight and die for our country, or the elderly that paid into the system their whole life. That is not right. I mean, you can't justify it. And so that I'm just here to fight injustice. I don't like this. And someone's just got to stand up and be a voice of reason and fight for the everyday American.
Well, I'd like to tell everybody out there that one of the biggest things that people can be helpful with is to contact Reagan and jump on our team here. So we got the donate button here. You got coffee. Okay, you're doing.
Got coffee. Got merchandise. It's just supporting. Yeah, it's just supporting everybody and doing the right thing and standing up, and I need your help to do it. I'm not made of money. I don't claim to be made of money, unlike most people who run for this type of office. But I just see the need for somebody like me in that office.
I think the biggest thing that people can help you with is to get on your social media as well and share. If you spent like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, everyone, and just reposting information, you become the advertising mechanism of getting good candidates which the mainstream media can't censor. They can't censor this. If you send a whole bunch of people towards an effort like this and everybody decides, you know what, I'm actually going to do something and stand for the good candidates, which is really, not the foundations. It's not the PACs or anything like that. It's the candidates that are going to make the change. So we need to get behind our good candidates. And
word of mouth is free.
Well, and I would say, here you go. I mean, do you have a phone number on here?
Yep, there's a phone number on.
Here you go. I'm going to make it really easy for everybody. It's 1-682-730-6257. 732-6257. Give her a call and offer to help her and ask her what she needs there across Georgia, even if you're not in the state. If we support good candidates everywhere, we can make a real great change.
Georgia and Arizona's elections being what they are, these are two pivotal key states to taking our country back. And so it's a nationwide interest to get good people elected both in Georgia and Arizona.
Yeah. I want to thank Kirk for passing your information on to me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I love that guy. He's a great guy. And
he is so positive and such a ray of light.
There's so many good people that are fighting this good fight that you meet across the way. What are some of the other names of people that you've met?
Mark Fincham, to me, has just been a really good guy.
Great guy.
I was really surprised. I wasn't sure, never met him in person, just liked what I saw on TV, but he is a down-to-earth guy, pray over every meal, just good Christian man. I really appreciate him a lot and his help. It's just the everyday people to me that see the need and see that hope in me that have really touched me, and they start volunteering. And just the friendships I've kindled with the everyday person across the state probably means more to me than anything. It can be a real burden on your heart and soul when people are so disheartened with what's going on in the nation. And I remember walking into our 8th district fish fry last year. And this is after our governor and the chairman of that district had told everyone they can't wear election integrity t-shirts into the building. Cannot wear election integrity t-shirts. They were told they either have to take off their shirts or turn them inside out, or they'll refund their ticket. And I'm like, this isn't middle school.
What's their justification?
Kemp doesn't like anything said about elections after the 2020 election, and Kemp was there speaking at the event. So he even had state troopers standing at the door.
The Gestapo. Let's go back to that, because I had that discussion earlier.
This is crazy. So I walked through the door.
Cop Gestapo was going on across this nation.
Well, I actually wrote a letter to our Floyd County Sheriff's Department and our Rome's Chief of Police, because they were kind of coming after an event I was having, or our election supervisor was, and so she called for the police to be at my event. And I wrote a letter saying, okay, by Nuremberg principle number 4, saying I'm just doing my job isn't a viable option when there's a moral choice to be made. I went, you've got to choose. Are you going to be the Nazi browncoats, or are you going to stand up for the Constitution, freedom, and liberty of the people? I went, my event is not causing anything. I don't stand for violence and hate. And if someone rose up and did something, I would call them out. I don't need you there.
Yeah.
And it's really sad what our country's become. And I even brought up the point because Marjorie Taylor Greene lives in my county. I went, y'all have swatted her house 8 times now. You know what's going on. You know her address, and you know her phone number personally by now. Instead of trying to intimidate her and the citizens of this county, give her a call and say, is there a real incident going on? Do we need to show up?
Which means that they're complicit in the swatting for intimidation and coercion. Absolutely.
8 times now they've done it, and they know what's going on by now. You can't.
It's just harassment.
Can't justify. Yeah.
It's law enforcement harassment. And that's going on all over the place. And people really that are involved in these organizations need to say, I'm not going to participate, even if you have to walk away from that job and trust that God will help you.
That's the only way we're going to get our country back. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Rome, 20 minutes south of me, you have to have a permit to protest. I had 4 of my friends protesting on private land. They did not have a permit for it, but we had a trans queer festival in Rome where they were selling dildos on the street. They were walking, transgender men with boob jobs were walking around topless, and there were kids around and everything. And so my friends were protesting that, and they arrested all 4 of them.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, all 4 of them. And it's like, Marjorie kind of gets me because they asked her if they would support her at a function, and she said, no, I will always back the blue. You need to follow the law. And she went, this isn't a federal issue. And they would go, yeah, it goes against our First Amendment rights. And she went, I will always back the blue. And I'm like, flu really haven't had your back, if you want to be honest about it.
Well, and that's a big problem. I mean, when we follow these labels, it's either good or it's evil. If there's good cops, support them all the way. I completely support law and order, but what's happening is if we've got weaponized departments or systems or individuals, you can't stand with them just because they've got the label. It's kind of like, I talked to probably a third to half the sheriffs in the state. There were only 2 of them that I would say were even remotely loyal to the Constitution. They didn't even, and I'm like, why didn't you arrest Whitmer? And they're like, because nobody prosecuted. I said, okay, so that gives you the right to walk away from your duty? No, it doesn't. You still have to do your job, regardless if somebody else fails.
Bring it to people's attention. Bring
Yeah.
it to people's attention. And you know, with all the election fraud cases coming out, and in Georgia, I think last week they proved that we had 200,000, I think it was, invalid ballots. And it's like, why are they calling for jail time for election fraud? That should be treason. You're trying to overthrow the government. That is the very definition of treason.
Right.
And so, I mean, maybe I'm too hardcore, but it's like, we've got to have ramifications for this. We've got to get control over it. If we're going to get control of our country, the elections are the first thing to get control over, because if you can't trust your elections, you can't trust your government.
Yeah, they've committed election fraud. It is absolutely election fraud. And, but fraud isn't the right term for it, because it is exactly as you said, it's treason, and that comes with certain punishments that are unreversible.
Yeah, there should be ramifications for that. It's not a simple task, election fraud. It's not an innocent crime. There should be massive ramifications for all of this. And I think death is the only thing, to me. Like, you commit it, you've got to pay those ultimate consequences.
Same thing with crimes against humanity. That comes with the ultimate penalty. When you hurt, kill, or maim, you just lost your rights. You lost them all.
It's like, people are like, oh, you're crazy and a conspiracy theorist because you believe the vaccine and COVID is the government created it. And I went, Just think about this. Look at the Tuskegee experiment when they injected 100 black men with syphilis just to see what would happen. And when they saw what was going on in them and could have cured it with penicillin, they just kept telling these men they had bad blood and let them suffer for decades, just so they could watch the effects of what happened.
Yeah,
look at what they did with the Native American and smallpox blankets. Our government has been known to use biological warfare on its people, on other people. So let's not be naive.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Well, we've come to pretty close to 11 o'clock. So are there any last words that you have to say? And we're going to end this with prayer and then go on to our day.
Just thank you guys. Any support you can give me, please like and share all of my social media. And if you can donate. Thank you and God bless.
Yeah, well, thank you. Now, stay on the line. We're going to say a prayer and then I'm going to end it. But stay on the line. We'll talk for a few minutes. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for Reagan and for Jeff Buongiorno and all the wonderful patriots out there that are fighting every day, and each and every person that's listening to this. I ask that you would motivate each person out there to stand with courage, with an unwavering resolve for this nation and for your good purposes. We acknowledge, we love you for everything you created here. It's a beautiful place. And we are supposed to be your stewards here, not necessarily to victimize it or to take advantage of things or put money first, but really to do your work here. And that's to serve each other, to serve your world, and to do the right thing. We want to leave this place a better place than what we found it, and serve you in our thoughts and our deeds and everything that we do, because we just love you so much. And we're thankful for what you did for us at the cross, that we can come to you with all of our problems, with all of our thoughts and ideas, and that you will help us. Bless every single person out there. You've been a great friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
And
Oh, there we go. So, all right, guys, so we go to ding, 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 go to, we're getting feedback. Ding, 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 go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com because I am the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would love to have a debate with President Donald J. Trump, the rightful president of the United States, about that at some point in time. I'm still waiting for it. So, but have a great day, guys. And remember, God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Starts here. Get tough. You're going to have to get tough because we've got some tough days ahead of us. And you know what? Look at it as an adventure. It's going to be great. What are you going to do with what God sends to you? Adapt and adjust. That's it. So we'll see you tomorrow.
thank you.